You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158.
Welcome to this heartfelt episode of 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we bring you inspiring stories of resilience, service, and love. Today, we're honored to sit down with Matthew, a career EMS professional, instructor, and devoted foster parent. Matthew's journey has been one of dedication, not only to saving lives in emergency medicine, but also to caring for medically complex children alongside his wife. One of the most profound chapters of their journey is the story of Charlee, a baby they fostered and later adopted, whose life left an indelible mark on their hearts. Through their loss, they found purpose, creating Charlee's Orchard to provide support to families of children with Down syndrome. In this conversation, we'll explore Matthew's career in EMS, his transition into teaching, the realities of fostering, and the incredible mission behind Charlee's Orchard. Get ready for an emotional, inspiring discussion about love, loss, and turning pain into purpose. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. I'm your host, Rico. We have a special guest today. His name is Matthew. He is EMS and a foster parent to special needs children. I do warn you that this episode may be very touching and very emotional. So just be advised that there's going to be a little bit of emotion going on. So please forgive me if I start getting emotional myself. How's it going, Matthew?
It's going well. And just for your audience's sake, I probably will not be able to get through this without crying because I have yet to be able to do it. So,
Yeah. I mean, when we did the pre-interview, you saw that I was kind of getting a little emotional myself. I was trying to hold it back, but the story is quite compelling and it's very heartfelt. So we're going to get into some introduction and some background. Let's start with your journey and what led you to the career of EMS and how that has helped you in your path and how that has evolved the last 7 years.
well, actually, it started with the fire department. In the town that I was living in at the time, it was a very small town, and they had a little, it wasn't even a newspaper. It was more like a pamphlet that was put out every week, like town news kind of thing. And in the back of that, they had a call for volunteers. And so I was like, well, I could probably do that. And so I went and I interviewed, and they let me on and trained me and certified me. And I was a volunteer fireman in the little town that I lived in. And that was in 1996. And then 2 years later, I was working as a research analyst at the time, and I was in the process of trying to get in medical school. And I had been accepted on the alternate list at the one that was closest to me, and I was planning to do that. It was about the same time my wife found out she was pregnant with our first child, and her father was a neurosurgeon, and she did not want to be married to a doctor. So I had to choose. And so I put med school on the back burner. And about that same time, I answered an ad. I'll show you how old I am. Back in the newspaper, when they still had those, a one ad for hiring professional firefighters. And, well, it's hard to say without city names. I'm in Kentucky. It was in Lexington. It's a big metro fire department here that's close to us. And for whatever reason, out of 1,700 applicants, I was one of 15 that was hired. So they put me through EMT school, through the fire academy. I became a career professional firefighter at that point. And then during my probationary year, they put me through paramedic school.
Okay.
So I've been a paramedic since '99, and I haven't looked back since. I got into it because I liked the fire service, and then when I got over to the EMS side, I found that this can be what I wanted to do initially, mixed with what I found a passion for, quite by accident, which was fire service. So I was both dual role, and I did that for 20 years until I retired.
Now, do you ever think about how things would have been different, or do you feel that this line of work was meant for you since you chose a different path other than going into medical school?
Money wouldn't have been much of an issue. Wouldn't have been as much of an issue had I gone to medical school, I think.
Right.
But the fire service does not pay well, especially back then. It didn't pay well. But as far as job fulfillment goes, I can't imagine a better career path for me. Like I never went to work and wondered, why do I do this every day? It was even on slow days. It was like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So, and then I branched out to that too. So while I worked at the fire department, I got my critical care paramedic. I got other certifications as well. I went and I flew on a medical helicopter for a while, which was absolutely amazing. I also worked in ERs. I worked for other services around me at the same time, just to kind of pick up, again, because the EMS and fire don't pay very well. So you pick up extra jobs, and so I would work. So I worked at the fire department my normal shift, and I'd come home and I'd work the ambulance in my hometown. So, or I went and flew for our trauma center, which was fun.
Now, eventually you started teaching paramedicine. What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I was working for my local ambulance service. I've retired already, so it's just supplemental income kind of thing at this point. But I still love the truck. I love doing the job, even though I'm old and my body says no. A friend of mine is actually the coordinator of the program at our local community college, and he's like, "Hey, man, I need help. I need a clinical coordinator to come help me and to teach, and I can't think of anybody better to do it than you." And I'm just like, never done that before. I've taught small scale, like in-house training and precepting new medics and things like that. But I've never getting feedback. I've never like stood in front of a class and actually done a program start to finish. So that was it was a new experience. But I accepted the job, and it's been great. I love it because I feel like, I'm getting to the point where maybe my body isn't going to let me do this much longer. But I can instill what I know and what I've learned and what I've experienced in the next generation and mold them to be better than I was.
Right.
So that's my motivation for doing it. And I do like it. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like you were pretty well-rounded in the field.
Yeah. I like education. Like even when I worked on a truck, I was always training and always trying to figure out new things. That's why I took the critical care class. That's why I did it long before it was popular in Kentucky.
Right.
Now it seems like everybody's a critical care paramedic, but back then it was very rare, and people were like, "Why do you want to do that? It's not going to affect how you can work on a truck," because Kentucky didn't even acknowledge it back then. I said, because I want to be better. Right. And so that's always been my motivation there. So now I feel like I can pass that along, not just the information, but the love of learning as well to the next generation of students.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome of you to do that. Most people just want to get by, and you've kind of gone above and beyond.
You see a lot of that. So, but yeah.
Even more so when we start getting more deeper in depth into this story, you definitely go way far above and beyond what
It's how I'm wired, man. I don't know how to turn it off.
it's definitely inspiring. Definitely is. And moving on to that, you and your wife have fostered 15 medically complex children since 2015. What led you to this calling?
Well, actually, we didn't start initially as medically complex. We started as foster, and what kind of led us to it was my wife, and I wish she was here, but she can't be here. And for your listeners, she's in the hospital with our youngest, who just had surgery, and will be there for who knows how long. So I'm kind of holding the fort down here, but she's also a paramedic, and her story, like I said, I wish she was here because her story is better than mine. But she's an amazing woman, and when she got hurt in 2009, and when that happened, and it finally dawned on her, like 2 years later, after she tried to go back, that she would never get to be a paramedic again. She felt like she had no purpose. And so we talked a lot about it. And she's like, we see these kids all the time on the EMS side of things, who are abused and neglected, and they're removed from their home. And what happens to them? And she was like, why don't we be what happens to them? We'll open our home and we'll take care of them. So I was like, okay. So we went through the training and we did that. We became foster parents, and we've had a bunch of kids until one of the last ones was our son we adopted. And we didn't intend to adopt him because we weren't an adoptive home. But his case had lingered for 2.5 years, and they finally said, hey, it's going to adoption. You need to decide what you want to do. So we said, well, we've had him since he was born. So yeah, he's ours. We'll adopt him. And literally not a week after that happened, a friend of ours, we were shopping at Kroger, and we were excited because we just adopted our boy. And she's like, hey, I have a question about adoption. And we're like, okay, well, shoot. And she's like, I have a friend who's pregnant, and she doesn't want to have an abortion, but she can't keep the baby. And she wants to know what her options are. And so we kind of explained to her, like, well, foster care is different than private, but we'll find out and let you know. And she was like, well, how about, would you guys be interested in adopting? And we're like, yeah. So, and then she's like, well, let me tell you something. She has Down syndrome. And we're like, okay. And she's got a congenital heart defect. Okay. We're just like, yes. So we gave her our number, wrote on a napkin. We're standing in Kroger. We're crying. People are looking at us like, what's wrong with these people crying with the deli girl at Kroger? But we're like, yeah. So a couple months went by and we didn't hear anything. And we'd go back to the store and ask, hey, has your friend changed her mind? Have you heard anything? She'll call you when she's ready. And it was like a couple days after New Year's, I was taking Christmas lights down, and I hear my wife scream in the house. So I think, oh no, something's happened. Oh. And I went in there, and she's like, it's the mom. She texted me. And so we met. Because we're foster parents, we have what they call life books. It's basically a photo album and little stories about what our home is like. Who lives here? What kind of pets do we have? That kind of stuff. What do we do every day? That kind of thing. So that kids would come in and they could see that and be like, okay, this isn't so scary. I know what to expect. And so we took those and we gave them to her, and she looked it over, and we talked for, seemed like forever, 2 hours at a restaurant. And when she left, she called before we even got up, and we were just kind of looking at each other going, wonder what she thinks. And she goes, I want you to be my daughter's parents. Oh. So my wife started going to her appointments and stuff, prenatal appointments. And then the day came when she gave birth, and we got to be in the room, and I got to cut the cord, and it was pretty amazing. And that's how Charlee got here. And then within minutes, she turned blue, and they realized something was wrong, and they rushed her off to NICU. And the heart defect that they knew about was there, but there was also one that they weren't aware of, and it's called coarctation of the aorta. Basically, the aorta there's a stopping point. It goes past the loop and comes down, and then it just constricts off, and so there's no blood flow going to the bottom half of her body. And so she had emergency heart surgery at 2 days old. We had a lot of issues. We had 2 open heart surgeries, G-tube surgeries, all kinds of little things and stuff. So we got pretty good at managing a medically complex kid. But because she was so, we kind of stopped fostering. We went on what's called going on hold, and eventually stopped. And then when she was 3, well, actually before she turned 3, she had been to all her specialists and everything, and they said, "Hey, clean bill of health, man. She is great. She's perfect. She's gonna, she's, good as can be." I'm like, "That's awesome." And she was running around, and you would never know that all of those things had happened. So it was great. And then one day in July, I was at work. I was working on the ambulance in a neighboring county, and I get a call from my wife. And my wife knows that phone calls are reserved for this is an emergency. Sorry, I should turn my radio off. I've got a base station at home because I volunteer for it too. But she calls me, and I'm with a patient. So I tell my partner, I said to kind of take over, getting vitals and assessment, and I'll be right back. I step out, and she's like, "Charlie's really sick. I'm taking her to the hospital." And I'm like, "Okay, I will try to get off shift, and I'll be right there," because it's an hour away from where I'm at. That's where the children's hospital is. And by the time I can get to my shift commander and get that run finished, because I still had to finish that call, get back and pack up and go, it was probably 2.5, 3 hours later. By the time, I get to the hospital, and at that point, Charlee is not herself. My wife looks visibly, concerned, and if you know this children's hospital, they're not fast. So, but this has been like 3 hours from the time they got there to I get there, and my wife said they've already admitted her and they're taking her upstairs. That tells me, I was like, "Oh crap, this is serious." And they admitted her to the PICU, and we had doctor after doctor after doctor come in and tell us she's septic. Everything is wrong. Like all our labs are off. We don't know why. And they were doing test after test after test, and specialist after specialist after specialist came in with their theory, but no one could agree on what was going on with her. So that night, my wife was exhausted. I was tired. This hospital has what's called sleep rooms for parents who have to stay in the PICU overnight. And I told my wife to go sleep because she'll need her strength for this, and I'll stay with Charlee. About 5 o'clock that morning, I hear her scream, and I'm up on my feet, of course, and I see her seizing. She's never seized before. So I'm calling the emergency call line. I'm yelling out, "Somebody come help me." And it seemed like forever. I'm sure it wasn't, but it seemed like an eternity before someone came in. And they were kind of standing there like, "What do we do?" I'm like, "What you do is you intubate her. What you do is you give her Valium. What you do is you treat the seizure and figure out what's going on and why she's seizing." And I'm like, "I shouldn't have to tell you this." And I'm thinking like a crazy medic and a crazy dad at the same time. It's a weird mix of all of that. So they sedated her, they intubated her, and that scream was the last time I ever heard her voice. So later that day, they'd kind of realized that she had some brain swelling, and they wanted to do an MRI to confirm it. They had pretty much had her stabilized, and told me to go home and get stuff for a long stay. I was still in my uniform. This was the next day. I was still in my uniform, and I was like, "Okay, I'll take the truck home, and I'll go get stuff for my wife and me to stay for a few weeks." And I didn't even make it home. So I live about an hour away from the hospital. I didn't even make it home, and my wife calls me. She's crying. She said she's gone. So I come back and I see Charlee laying in the bed. She's intubated. She's got a million drips going. And unfortunately, sometimes being medical really sucks because you see what drips are hanging. You go, oh crap, this is bad. And she was on an EEG, which I know what one's supposed to look like, and I know what hers looked like, and hers was completely flat. And I just asked my wife what happened. She goes, well, shortly after you left, all the nurses and doctors came running down here and said something about MRI, and I knew it was Charlee. And she'd coded in the MRI, and they'd gotten her back. And then she'd coded again in the room. And for those who aren't medical, coded just means she went into cardiac arrest. Mm-hmm. And I had bounced around with things of faith in my younger days. And for about the past, 13, 14 years prior to this moment, I had considered myself an atheist because I just saw all the bad in the world every day at work and all that stuff. And I thought there's no way there's God. And my wife was, best way to say is she's a non-practicing Catholic. So didn't go to church, didn't really believe anything, just Catholic because her parents are. And she sat me down and she's like, I saw her go. I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, there's a light in the corner of the room. I saw Charlee leave and go home. I said, okay. Now this is me going, all right. So people look at us sometimes funny when we say this, but it's what we saw. It's what she saw, and she believes. She gave her life to Christ that moment. Her telling me is what I needed to do the same. So I think God said, hey, this terrible thing happened to you, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to let it go to waste.
Right.
And he didn't. But it's still our choice. We could have been mad, and we could have shaken our fist, or we could have just say, okay, we're in. So that's what we did. And more on that later. But so we saw her go, and as she's still laying in the bed with all the drips running and the ventilator going, I don't know how long it went before I noticed it, but she wasn't on sedation anymore. So this brain pattern wasn't because she was sedated. The Livafed and other drugs that are really powerful pressors were turning her hands black. And I finally just said to the doctor, again, based on what my wife had told me, and also based on what I observe, I said, it's time to turn the machines off. She's gone. And this is just, I can't see my daughter like this. So after a short discussion with the attending, he agreed. And they turned everything off, and they put her in my arms and extubated her. And I held her, and initially they turned the monitor off. I said, please leave it on. And so I just watched her heart rate slowly slow into a systole. Hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And then hardest thing that I think also too is pushing an empty stroller outside of a hospital, because she was 3.5 years old and she was never coming home again. So fast forward back to the fostering thing. So this happened, and we're a hot mess. And one of the things, well, actually, before we get back to fostering, one of the things that we both decided was that we didn't want Charlee to be alone in a cemetery. Mm-hmm. So we brought her home, and we have a farm, and we built an orchard, and we call it Charlee's Orchard. And in the middle of it, in a gazebo, Charlee rests. And then, so we built that, and that was kind of an expression of our grief. And then after about a year, my wife was just like, I expected to have Charlee my whole life and to take care of her whole life. And I don't know what to do with it. She goes, I think we should foster again. And I was thinking, okay. And she goes, but I think we need to be specific. So, okay. She goes, I think we need to do medically complex. Okay, well that's a spectrum. So like the severe ones, the ones that nobody else will take. Not G tube necessarily, but including that, like trachs and severe cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy or spina bifida, those kind of things. And she's like, okay. And she's like, and if we have another Down syndrome, it's an automatic yes. I said, okay. So we contacted the cabinet and we got reinstated as foster parents. And when we went through the training again and added the medically complex training on top of it, we got our worker here where we live. And we told her, these are our rules. Don't call us unless it's severe medically complex, because that's what we're going to do, because there's not enough of us as a home. So don't waste us. And I hate to say that, wasting us, but don't waste the spot on a kid who could go anywhere.
Right.
When there's a kid that the next stop is an institution. Right. And so with that understanding, our worker was very understanding of that. And I could say her name now because we adopted her on Tuesday, but our first call was Rosalie. And she's a beautiful little girl who at 2 months old was severely abused. Had spent 2 months in the hospital, head injury, brain bleeds, had a stroke, cerebral palsy, all the bad things that can happen with that, skull fracture and all that. And we brought her home, and she's been with us since probably a year and a half now. And we have dealt with seizures. We've dealt with epileptic spasms, which are pretty severe. We've dealt with her cerebral palsy. We've made our home wheelchair accessible. We've done all of these things that we can do to make her life as good as we can make it. And like I said, on Tuesday, we finally got to adopt her, which was pretty awesome. So she is mine. And thank you. And then in January, we got another little boy who has severe spina bifida, had hydrocephalus, and a couple other issues that are pretty severe. Both of these kids were statewide searches, by the way. Like the cabinet, like nobody local will do it. They put it on a statewide search. Next stop is, an orphanage that's a medical orphanage kind of thing. And that's no life for a kid. So we agreed to take him as well. And that's where my wife is right now. She's with him because he's had a couple of surgeries this week, and one did not go very well. And he's had a lot of complications from it. So she will not leave his side. She has been in the grill of several doctors because that's just what mama bears do.
Yeah. Protect the young.
Yeah. And she is a fierce, fierce advocate for these kids. She makes me very proud. And so that's kind of where we are on the fostering thing. Yeah. So Charlee kind of paved the way for that, because we learned how to do all of these things because of her. And Charlee, she taught us, I don't know, like as a fireman and as a paramedic, you build walls and you keep people out. And I did this with my family too. And my older children probably would attest to it, is that dad is emotionally unavailable until Charlee. Because Charlee didn't care. She's like, I don't care, Dad. I'm going to love you anyway. Mm-hmm. And I was so wrapped around that little girl's finger. So, I don't know. She was God's gift twice.
Right.
If that makes sense. And so it's just kind of like we don't want to squander that gift. So we just pour ourselves out. And that's why we do it.
Going. Yeah. And you keep taking in the beautiful children that you can.
Yep. And we're not closed. I mean, we have her and we have him and my 8-year-old that we adopted first in the house right now. And but our home's still open. They could call us today, and we'd say yes.
Right. So you created a nonprofit organization, is that correct?
We did. One of the things we did with Charlie's Orchard is we did make it into a 501c3, and we need to update our website because we're changing the mission of it. Because this is one of the things too when you deal with grief is you have an initial reaction, and then you fine tune how you think things. So we initially put it out there for bereavement grants for kids with Down syndrome specifically, because that's what Charlie's main diagnosis was. And the reason we did that was I had a life insurance policy on her, and I'm not going to name the company, even though I can't stand them. And they sold it to me, and I told them that she had all these things, and they were like, okay, no problem. Well, the day she died, not the day, but after she died, I called. I said, hey, we got all these funeral expenses. Went to, I don't know what the word is, but make a claim, I guess. Sounds very cold. But, and they denied it because of her Down syndrome. And so talking to other people with kids who have issues like that, insurance companies don't cover it. They just don't. They don't cover Down syndrome. They don't cover spinal bifida. They don't cover other things because I understand because it's high mortality rates, but sorry, fire tone's going off. Just test. But I was not told that. I was told it'd be fine.
Right.
So we decided to make bereavement grants for kids like that. Like if the parents, their child suddenly dies, there's no insurance. It costs a lot to bury somebody, or even have them cremated. So we were going to try to help out that way. And surprisingly, no one's taken us up on it. So we decided, okay, we're gonna kind of flip our mission a little bit. And like I said, we're trying to redo the website. And of course, we have a board of directors because it's a charitable thing. So you have to go through a board and a process and all that stuff. So that's why it's slow. But we wanted to change it, and we want to link up with palliative care at the Children's Hospital to do like outreach to outlying hospitals. So like we have a small hospital in the town we live in, and children who die here in hospital, there's nothing for their parents. There's nobody to come and say, here's a handprint, here's a lock of hair, here's a little fingerprint jewelry, here's a little box of their things that was them that you can always have and remember, or to talk to say someone who's been there and talk to say like process what you're feeling, because there's no right way to grieve. And people always say, I'm afraid to do this because people will think that. Doesn't matter. People grieve differently. Some people, like my wife, she went on a painting frenzy. She painted our front porch. She painted the house. She painted all kinds of things because she needed to work out her grief. I was a lump in a chair because I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. We're different. So we want to do that and have it with the help of palliative care, because they're the experts in it. Have like trained people go to these hospitals when there's a child death and walk the parents through. Here's what's coming next. Here's what's this. Here's your child's handprint. Here's a lock of their hair. Here's a little pendant that we got their fingerprint and put on there for you. Because you don't think about stuff like that, but it means a lot, especially when you're looking back a year, 2 years, 3 years later, and you go through that box and you appreciate those things. So we're kind of gearing towards that as our focus from here on out. But it's just not updated yet because we have there's a lot of working pieces.
Parts, yeah. And the name of your foundation
is Charlie's Orchard.
Charlie's Orchard. And that's also the name of the orchard outside.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we did that because one of the few things that Charlie would actually eat was fruit. She loved
fruit,
apples and peaches and things like that, and pears. So we planted all those things that she loved, and and in and amongst the fruit trees is just garden, just areas of flowers because she loved that too, and the butterflies that come and all of that. So these are it's just a place, and it's where she used to play. Like I've got pictures of where the orchard is before it was the orchard when she was still alive, playing with her brother in that spot.
Right.
And now it's her spot. So
Yeah, Brianna and I talked about possibly wanting to come see that.
you are welcome to come out here anytime. I would recommend waiting a few weeks till the flowers come up, but
Oh yeah,
right now it's kind of brown.
We'll be gone for a while. So
Yeah, right now it's a little brown, but
but
during the spring and summer, and it's gorgeous. And then toward the end of summer, when the sunflowers come up, it's really pretty.
Really? Yeah, we'll definitely have to venture out that way. I'm sure we'll be in touch with you then. I'm just, I mean, I'm just at a loss of words. I mean, I'm heartbroken at the same time. Just I can feel your pain and your grief. Yet you've done something positive with that grief, and you're doing something great for other children that are going through a lot of traumatic things.
Well, I mean, two things motivate me. One is I know where Charlie is.
Mm-hmm.
She's with Jesus, and I get to go there too.
Yeah.
I just have to wait. But while I'm waiting, I'm working, because faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
That's okay.
For whatever reason, God saw fit to wire us this way. So we're taking that and we're just running with it until he says, "You're done. You can come home."
When it's your time and you're ready, you'll see Charlie again.
I know.
She'll be waiting for you. She'll be happy to see you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I bet she is too.
All right.
I can't imagine losing a child. I mean, I only have two girls, and I mean they're adults now, but you know, my first wife, she did have a miscarriage with a pair of twins. One of them died, and the other one, she's 26 now. So I mean, it wasn't like we got to meet the other child, but it was still kind of hard. But I never, held the child in my arms to see or to watch her, last breath. And that would definitely probably destroy me.
It's a club you never want to be in.
Yeah. It's definitely not something I want to see, but
that's one of the things that, like when we decided to do this, actually our pastor took us aside and he goes, "Are you really sure? Because the likelihood of you having to do this again is very high with this population group."
right.
Yep. I know. I will probably have to do this again at some point.
Right.
And it will hurt just as much. But I'll see them again too.
Right.
And in the meantime, I'm going to give them the best life I can while we're here.
Yeah. These children deserve love too.
Yeah, they do.
All the love that they can get. And, there's no doubt in my mind that they're getting it where they're at with you.
Thank you.
those children are blessed to have you guys in their lives, and it's just amazing what you guys are doing, because not a lot of people have that will or that strength to take on such responsibility.
Well, like I said, I think that God uniquely equipped us to do that. I mean, my wife and I are both paramedics, so we have understanding of the medicine. We're both extremely, and I think being a paramedic just does this anyway. You thrive in chaos because emergency medical scene or fire scene or whatever is never orderly. You're there because something's wrong, and so we thrive in that environment. And so, like, right now, she's at the hospital. I haven't seen her in a week, other than briefly to take her clothes and laundry swaps and food. But this is like, it just feels like we were built for this. And people, I've had so many people, like, especially people at church, and other people say, I don't know how you can do this, and try to say we're so special or whatever. And I'm like, we're really not. We're just taking the gifts God gave us and we're giving them back. Right. And everybody has their own gifting. So some people's gift is making food and hospitality. And we've had so many people bring us meals. Some people's, gifts is there's just like, there's all kinds of people that do different things and are gifted in that way. And they don't think they're special because of it, but because it's when we're all working together. Them doing what they do enables us to do what we do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a team effort. I think Christianity is a team sport, but I mean, everybody doing their part. Like, we're all members of one body, right? So the toe does what the toe does, the fingers do what they do, the brain does what it does. We couldn't do what we do without that. And so I don't think we're anything special. I think we're just gifted to do this. And we're just put in a place to be able to do it and give it back. So, and like I said, I think because one of the first questions you asked me was like, do you feel like your life went the way it should have gone? Mm-hmm. Looking back at it, as I'm 52 years old, I'm looking back on it, and I say absolutely 100%. Because without all of those things, I wouldn't be here.
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most.
Like things like highlights of your career. And I've listened to, every one of your podcasts so far. And, just, I wish I could remember which one it was, but I don't know. I should have written it down when I heard it. I was like, yes, that's exactly right. But anyway, I've had highlights of my career the whole 30 years. I mean, I've had people, and there's something really cool about, there's people walking the earth today because I went to work that day.
Right.
I've had people come in the station and say, after a cardiac arrest, and bring cookies because he's still alive. That's pretty awesome. I've had a lot of tragedy too, like it's one of the things when I teach, one of the things I try to impress upon my students. And this is another thing about having kids like this is pediatrics is kind of my thing. That's when I teach, that's my area, right? That's where I focus. And So when I show them, I show pictures. A lot of the lectures are my children, like in the pictures and in the videos that I use as examples, because most of these people know my kids, small knit community, right? And so what that does is it takes their eyes out of a textbook with stock images and drawings of these are real kids I know. These are real people, and I know this family, and I know the struggles they have, and I know all of that, and it just makes it real. Like, you're not just going to work and earning a paycheck. What you do matters. And even if you don't think so, even if you only have that patient for 15 or 20 minutes, that 15 or 20 minutes is the first link into a good outcome or a bad outcome. There were a lot of errors made with Charlie when she was in the hospital on the medical team side of things, and I don't want to get too much into it. But one of the lectures I give is on that, and just to say it's important that we stay on top of our game. It's important that we stay on top of our education, that we don't become complacent, because what happens when you do is you mess up, and when you mess up, this is what happens. And the last picture I show is me standing over. My wife took the picture. I didn't even know she had until later, but of me standing over Charlie after they turned the machines off.
Right.
It makes it real. It's important that they understand that these are real people that they're making runs on. And I think I do a pretty good job of that.
Right.
So, sorry, I've probably gone off script a little.
No, you're good, man. You're just flowing with your feelings, and you're just telling what you can. I mean, you guys definitely been through the ringer, and it's unfortunate, but God had a plan, and they put Charlie with the right people.
I think so. I think we when my wife and I talk in private, we say that Charlie, we believe Charlie was, whether or not it's an actual angel, but I think she was like sent on a mission.
Right.
And she did it. And she made sure we were good before she left.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of she got our life straightened out and turned around and set on our own mission.
Right.
So I'm grateful for her.
Yeah, she was the catalyst for the whole thing.
It was.
So, now, do you have any other goals for your nonprofit in the next 5 years?
Our biggest goal is to get the thing with palliative care worked out, so that we can get into the regional hospitals around us, so that if something like happens, we have a list of people, or us, whoever ends up being, that we can call and say, okay, we have a child who's died at this hospital. We need someone to go, and if the parents want, we're not going to force ourselves on them, but if they want, we can offer these services to them. And then any other help that they might need. Because I tell you one thing you don't expect, and this is something that happened, after Charlie died and she had taken her last breath and I'd placed her back in the crib. The doctor came in and he signed the death certificate, and I was supposed to sign as her parent, and asked me, do I have a funeral home preference? I'm like, no, I don't have a funeral. Who expects a 3-year-old to die? No.
Right.
There are things you don't think about, and the heat of it is not. It's hard to be rational in that moment. To be honest with you, because everything inside of you is screaming, and even as someone who has dealt with death multiple times, it's different when it's your kid.
Yeah.
I couldn't be stoic and detached from that one when everything inside of you is screaming no.
Right.
So I think what we want to do is we want to kind of just offer that out there as to be a guide to help, and this, it's not going to make it better for the parents. Their kid is gone, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, they'll have something that was them.
Right.
And I know for us, I mean, we have that box, and it's put in a very special place, and sometimes we get it out and we look at it. So
Share
it's
the
helpful.
memory. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it morphed from the original thing with the bereavement grants, was because I was mad because insurance wouldn't cover it, and it was a big expense. And then after that initial thing wore off, I'm like, well, no one's taking us up on it, and this actually would be more beneficial. And we all agreed we just have to get contracts done and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
how can people get involved or help support your mission?
CharleesOrchard.org. It's CharleesOrchard.org is our website. You can donate. That's we were going to open up the garden to local kids with disabilities and stuff, but I'm having issues with. Well, I'm not a good gardener. So trying to get the trees to grow and trying to get all the flowers to do what they're supposed to do. I can grow weeds like anybody's business, but trying to get the orchard pretty.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty, but it's just like it's a lot of work. So that's kind of on the back burner too. But right now, I think we just want to do the outreach thing, and that's obviously going to take money because we have to get the supplies and we have to find the people, and it'll probably be social workers or lay ministers or things like that, or us, who would be working for us to do that.
Right.
Whether it's a volunteer or paid position, we're not sure yet. But like I said, it's still kind of in the morphing phase, so we haven't really discussed a lot of this stuff. It's like how are we going to bring this about? But that's the goal.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
For those considering fostering medically complex children, what advice would you give to them?
One of the things we tell prospective foster parents, anyway, my wife's actually a mentor for the foster system now, which is interesting. She's such an advocate, and I wish she could tell this part, but it is the hardest job, the worst job you will ever love, because the things you see these kids come from and sometimes have to go back to breaks your heart. The trauma that these kids bring with them is horrible. And then when you add on to that the medical complexities, whether it's something that was done to them or something that they were born with, it just makes it that much harder for them. So for medically complex, one, there is a huge need for it because a lot of kids come into care for various reasons. And it's not always abuse and neglect. Sometimes it's just parents can't take care of it, whether, the financial situation or whether there's many reasons.
This may not be equipped
Yeah.
mentally.
And so that's they might be low functioning themselves and can't manage a medically complex kid. So there's a lot of need. My advice would be is guard your heart, because not everything goes well. And there's a lot of people that get into fostering as trying to get around expensive adoptions. And I'm just like, yeah, if that's what you're wanting to do with the foster system, I don't recommend being a foster parent, because while adoptions do happen, and they have happened for me, the primary goal of foster care is to get the parents back on their feet and for reunification to happen. That's the primary goal for foster care. Is I will watch these children and take care of them and nurture them so that you can get your life together and get your kids back. That's the primary goal. If you can't do that or say that and believe that, then you shouldn't be a foster parent.
Right.
And again, we were fosters first. We weren't adoptive parents initially because we're old. We're not, we've already had our kids. We're just here to help, kind of thing. And then, but when our 8-year-old, he's now 8, he was a baby when we got him. When his went to adoption, they're like, okay, what are you going to do? And at that point, we're all he's ever known. Yeah, he's our son. Well, he will always be our son. So I would just be like, thoughtfully consider it, prayerfully consider it if that's your thing. Realize that there's a lot of heartache in it, but it's worth it, because it's not about you, it's about them. And if you can get your head around that and your heart around that, and realize that sometimes things don't go the way you want them to, you have to be able to be okay with it. And that's really hard. I've been there, and it's really hard. But these kids aren't there because it's not their fault.
Right.
They're a victim of circumstance. So.
Yeah, they didn't choose to be in the situation that they're in, and they didn't choose their ailments.
No, they did not. So.
It's unfortunate for these children to have to go through these things. But, it's heartwarming to know that there are people out there like you that are willing to step forward to, care for these children. I wish there were more people like that. And hopefully there will be.
I hope so. I hope if this podcast, some people hear it, maybe they think, you know what, I've thought about that. I'm going to do that, because there's a huge need for it. There is an enormous need for medical complex. And this, one of the big demographics that your podcast reaches is EMS, which is medical people. And having that understanding, you don't have to be medical to be a medically complex foster parent. They will train you, but it helps.
Yeah.
It helps you when you go to advocate to doctors and nurses and hospital stays and things like that, to say, no, this isn't right. This is what it needs to be.
Right.
Because doctors and nurses and they're people too, and sometimes they're not having a good day. So it takes a lot to advocate for these kids on a daily basis. Yeah.
So what do you wish more people understood about foster, the system, and children in it?
That there's always a need. That these kids aren't less than. So, a story that came out of this, and this made me so mad. This is one of our first kids we fostered. They come with Medicaid because they're state ward, right? Ward of the state. We went to get him glasses because he needed new glasses, and he was wide-eyed in this place. He's like 7 or 8 years old. I forget how old he was. This was one of our first ones. This was over 10 years ago, and just wide-eyed and wow. And the attendant came over and said, "Oh, those aren't for you. These are for you," and pulls out a drawer of like the cheap stuff that Medicaid will pay for. I'm like, don't you ever talk to him like that. Don't you ever talk to him like that. Like he's less than because of his circumstance. He didn't pick this. I was so mad. And I've noticed that sometimes we as providers, paramedics, nurses, doctors do that too. And I'm probably guilty of it at some point in my career of just like, you know. And one thing this has taught me has been like, never judge, because you aren't them. You don't know.
Right.
And I guess just living in this world as long as we have, it's really made me more empathetic towards everybody, regardless of what socioeconomic tier they're on, what race they are. It doesn't matter. It's just, they're people, man.
Yeah.
God loves them. I love them.
Yeah. God created all humans.
Yeah. So my job isn't to judge. My job is to take care.
Right.
So that's what I do.
Love.
And I demand that from the people who take care of my kids.
Mm.
You don't get to judge.
Right.
So you will find that, though, because they come with that Medicaid, and a lot of people have opinions about Medicaid. So I'm like, sorry about your opinion, but you're going to do your job.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's unfortunate because, the children don't deserve that. I myself was in a foster home for quite a few years, not because of my parents. Well, kind of. I mean, my mom couldn't take care of me, so I was in a lot of trouble all the time. So I was a knucklehead, and I was deemed ungovernable youth, so they put me in a foster home.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I had the experience of moving around from foster home to foster home. It wasn't fun.
No, I was just going to say, it sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It sucks.
cool.
It's not, I mean, if you think about it, even a kid that is being abused, the trauma of being removed from your parents, which is all you know, even if they're not good parents, is horrible. And then you're getting thrown instantly with this new family in this new house that you don't know, and it's absolutely traumatic for these kids.
Right.
And I don't know how you fix that, but we try to fix it just by loving on them.
Right.
And eventually, if they stay long enough, letting them know this is a safe place. They can be themselves. They can explore the things they want to explore, and do the things they want to do within the guidelines, obviously. But
Right.
and and hopefully grow and flourish, and learn that not everybody's bad and trying to get them or take away what little they do have.
Right.
So I don't know. It's not a perfect system by any means, but
That I would agree.
there's nothing perfect this side of heaven, though, and so you take what you're given, and you try to make it better in your little spot.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, is make it better in our little spot.
Right. You definitely found your purpose, and that purpose is something that is very wonderful, very valuable. You're showing these kids love, affection, and you're letting them know that they are valued and appreciated for who they are. And, my heart goes out to the little one that's in the hospital right now. I hope everything turns out.
I hope so. The my wife has given some of them what for today, so I have a feeling things will get straightened out. Don't mess with their kids, man.
Give them heck, huh?
Mm-hmm. Don't mess with their kids. But
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to, I don't know if we're getting close to the end of what you wanted to talk about or not, but I'm sure some people listening to this will probably wonder, like, okay, this guy went from atheist to Christian after the worst thing ever happened, and he was atheist because of all the bad things he saw.
Mm-hmm.
How can you justify this now?
Right.
They say, how do you believe in a God who would let all these bad things happen? And to that, I just kind of want to give an answer, even though no one's technically asked it because I can't hear through the screen. But God didn't create the world bad. In fact, he created it and said it was good.
Right.
We broke it.
Yeah.
So we're going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
At least what we can. Obviously, it will never be fixed, but we do what we're gifted to do, to fix what we can and to make it better for who we can. But we broke it. He didn't.
Right. He made it good for us.
He did. So that's how I can wrap my head around the change, where I came from, where I'm at, and why we do what we do.
Right.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that even in the Garden of Eden, there were two trees. One was the tree of knowledge, and the other one was the tree of life. Eve obviously chose, because of the serpent, the tree of knowledge, of knowing what is good and bad. And unfortunately, that was the first sin. Because they were told not to eat from that fruit.
Yeah. Anyway, in case anybody was like, well, how does this guy how do you get from here to there? Because it's not an easy jump. Especially given the bridge that I jumped, which was the death of my daughter. But I realized it's like God didn't do these things. God didn't kill my daughter. He didn't take her away from me. It happened because we live in a broken world. Right. But what he did do is he used that as an opportunity to redeem myself, my wife, my son who lives with us. I got to baptize him not too long ago, which was wonderful. And anybody else who will listen to me talk, because I'm not going to shut up.
Right.
So anyway.
I'm pretty sure I know what the answer to this question is, but I'm just going to let you tell it. So, looking back on your journey from EMS to teaching to fostering, what has been the most rewarding part of it all?
The fact that all those things led to a saving faith and a purpose. Being a paramedic was cool, but it wasn't my purpose. Mm-hmm. Being a firefighter was cool. It wasn't my purpose. I'm living my purpose. So that's the most rewarding thing. It took me 50 years to get here, right? But I'm here. So when I finally get to go home, may all hell rejoice that I'm out of the fight. So we'll fight till I get there. So sorry, I didn't mean to bring church to your podcast, but I it's such an integral part of who I am.
Hey, this is your story. This is who you are. I'm not going to let anybody knock that. That's not what we're about. And we give everybody a voice. And who are we to say, don't say this, don't say that? I mean,
I used to feel that way.
Yeah,
I used to feel that way, and that's definitely gone now. Obviously, it's my reason I get up. It's the reason I do what I do during the day. It's the reason I do anything.
Right. So I believe in God myself, and I've definitely seen a lot of miracles. It's no wonder why I'm still here, because there's many times that I should not be here, but I am, because my purpose wasn't fulfilled yet.
And I believe that. I believe that.
you know, we all have a purpose, and unfortunately, it's kind of uh, my purpose. I realize is doing this podcast and trying to help people, whether it's through their grief or trying to help them get assistance or you know whatever the situation. Um, Obviously, it didn't start out that way when we started the podcast. Originally we wanted to shed light on our law enforcement and our first responders, and just to let people know that these are people too, and to show them love and respect. Um, but we have come across a lot of other issues that we felt like needed to be addressed, and they're very important to us. And like your story is very important to us. You guys have been through a lot. You've done very great things. You're very hardworking, loving people. And I mean, how many people can say that they've stepped out of the norm and decided to take care of medically complex children?
I hope a year from now, a lot more people can.
Yeah, your heart has allowed you to do that, and the love of Christ and all the things that have inspired you to do it.
Somebody just woke up giggly. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but somebody just woke up really giggly.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we have for now, unless there's anything else you want to do. If you want to go ahead and replug Charlie's Orchard.
It's charleesorchard.org, CharleeSorchard.org. And we're also on Facebook, but I don't think we haven't updated that much either, simply because, again, with the transition and what we want to do, but also just we've been busy. And we got a lot going on. So,
right.
But yeah.
So to everybody listening into this podcast, if you guys want to visit charleesorchard.org, please do so. If there's anything that you can do, anything helps. These are awesome people. They're doing a great thing. And I think that more people need to be more involved in what they're doing. And if you are thinking about fostering a child, and if you feel like you're qualified to take on and handle a medically complex child, reach out and get some help. And maybe if you can reach out to Matthew, maybe he can help you along with that and kind of guide you through that.
The need is great.
Yeah. Yeah, with that being said, that's all we have for today. Unless there's anything else you'd like to share with us.
I think I'm good. I've taken up enough of your time.
No, you're good, man. I mean, I'm still like fighting back the emotions right now. That's why I'm having a hard time conveying my message. So I do apologize for that.
Yes, it's been 3 years since she's passed. So almost as long as she was alive, she's been gone. And I still cry almost every day.
I imagine. But
she broke me twice.
Yeah. Well, in those three little years, she was the brightest light shining in the world.
Yes.
And she still is.
Yep. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about her.
You're welcome, my friend. Whenever it's best, the best time and the best season to come around and see Charlie's Orchard, we'd like to come out and
absolutely
see that. If there's anything that we could do to help you guys, just let us know.
Appreciate it very much.
We have been running ads for nonprofits, and we do that voluntarily, so we don't charge anything for it. If that's something you want us to do for you guys, we can do that.
I will discuss it at our next board meeting.
And we'll just
I don't get to make unilateral decisions, unfortunately.
yeah.
So
I mean, if that's something you guys want to do, if you want to do a 30-second ad yourself and just give it to us and we'll run it, we'll alternate it with the other ones. Or if you want us to make one ourselves, we'll do that for you too. Just give us a script or something.
awesome. Thank you.
So, I mean, that's what we've been doing, just to kind of help people out. That's what we can do. We're not super rich or nothing. 'Cause I work.
We aren't either.
Job. I do this on the side, so
We aren't rich either. Yeah. So right now we're just making it and doing the best we can with what we got.
right. Exactly. We're doing the same thing. We're just making it and trying to help people the best we can and doing what we can. And
Great job.
This is one of the ways that we do it.
Well, I've enjoyed listening to the podcast so far, so it's been very good.
I'm glad you're listening to it. At least somebody is.
Oh, you got others.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few other people that definitely are regulars, and they get emotional. Like I've talked to one, she got emotional with the last podcast that came out. It was on Ducks for Dad.
Yes.
That was sad, But that family's holding it together.
It was the one before that, the gentleman who was the fireman in North Carolina,
Anthony.
Dude, I was driving
Uh-huh.
when he was talking about the rescue of the kids in the pond. I had to pull over.
Yes.
That hurt.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked with Anthony, and that was pretty much what ended his career.
Yeah. It could have ended mine. Actually, I did go back to work probably about a month and a half or so after Charlie died. And the first day, I had a really bad respiratory pediatric on a little girl who was blonde, like Charlie, who was named Charlie, spelled differently, at about the same age. And I don't know how I made it through, but I have my wife made me. I don't know. Well, you can't see it on the radio or on the podcast, but I can show you on the video. It's a little bracelet. I've never taken it off. It's just it's blue and yellow for Down syndrome, and it says Charlie on it. And I was wearing it that day, and she says, "Oh, you have a little girl named Charlie too." And I just lost it in the middle of a call. And I came back, got her to the hospital, did everything I was supposed to do, got to the hospital, got back to the station, and then went into the backyard of the station, fell on my knees, threw up, and wept. Wow. And I just went back in. I went back to the ship supervisor, and I said, I can't, I'm not ready. So it almost ended me.
Yeah.
And there were several pediatric runs right in a row. And I was like, okay, if you're testing me, big guy, I'm sorry. Whatever it is, I'm failing because I can't do it. And somehow or another, I managed to get through that, and I'm still doing it. But it was a blow, man. It was hard. But I had to call my wife, and she's like, I can't understand a word you're saying because I was sobbing so hard after that run. But I couldn't even leave because I couldn't stand up to drive. It's just in the yard, and everybody I work with, it's like, I think he's broken. And they don't know whether to come talk to you or not, But yeah, I ended up leaving and coming home and collecting myself and trying until I finally could get through a shift. But it seemed like everyone I'd go to, I'd have peds, and they were all bad, and they were all super sick, like Charlie was, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. So I learned everything I could learn about peds, man. I dove into it, and that's why I'm so passionate about it now, I think.
Yeah.
It's because I was like, this won't beat me. So I was like, I'm not done yet. Got to keep going.
It almost seems like that experience in that moment was meant for you to see that that's what you needed to do. That's the position that you needed to be in so that you can learn more.
Yeah.
Like a message to you.
Yeah, it was definitely a message. I got it loud and clear. It just, sometimes the message hurts.
Yeah. Sometimes it needs to hurt for you to get it.
Yeah. But it all came back when he was talking about the pond. Like, oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had it. It was a very visual image in my mind as he was describing. He's very, very eloquent about how he described his scene. And I was just like, it was like I was there.
Right.
And I didn't want to be there.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate turn of events there. And I do talk to Anthony once in a while. We message back and forth. And, he's a pretty good guy.
Sounds like it.
Good guy to talk to.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah. Maybe if you wanted to, I can get you hooked up with him, and
sure.
If you wanted to talk to him and stuff, and maybe you could kind of share your stories together, maybe help overcome a lot of the traumas that you go through.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously retired, and he takes photos of fire scenes and stuff like that. So,
but if I remember right, he's on Instagram and TikTok, and I don't have either of those. So I was like, well,
I do have his phone number, and
okay. Well, you can ask him if he wants. That's fine. We can get together.
Yeah, I'll ask him and see what he says. I'm sure he'd be pretty okay with that. He's a great guy to talk to. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you letting me talk. So,
you're definitely welcome, and I definitely appreciate you coming on here. It's been an honor, and it's been definitely very emotional. I just been trying to fight it back the whole step of the way.
I'm not very good at that.
So. Well, the first time I didn't fight it back very well, but
yeah.
So hearing it again, I was able to keep my composure a little bit better. But I didn't want to seem callous, but it is hard. It's hard for me to hear, and especially hard for you. And seeing you emotionally, it hurts. I could feel the pain.
Yep, and it never goes away.
Yeah, it never does. Yeah, I definitely know what it's like to lose a loved one. Never a child, but yeah, it does not go away, and you miss them every day.
So my son is a police officer, and of course, you started off with your cousin, and when he became a police officer, I was like, please don't make me do this again, because I know it's a very real possibility.
Yeah,
and I can't lose another child, but he is so good at his job, and I would never tell him this to his face, because he was supposed to be a fireman, right? Because
Yeah.
Team Red, and I'm proud of him. Even though to his face, I tell him he's a disappointment because he chose wrong. But I'm proud of him. He's so good at his job, and he loves it. It's what he was made for.
Right.
And proud dad. But I'm also a scared dad because I know there's very real risk with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very risky job.
Yeah. So I make him call me a lot.
Yeah, check in.
Yep. You're okay.
Every 10 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, not that bad, but yeah, we talk a lot.
So that's good that you have that close relationship with your son, and hopefully he continues to call you and thrive in what he's doing. He obviously loves what he's doing.
He very much does. Very much does.
So, like Billy loved what he did.
And that's
He
good.
wasn't the gung ho type. He wasn't like, I want to catch the criminals and beat them up. And he was just like the most loving person. Everybody he came in contact with, he had an impact in their life. That's the kind of person he was. He was just good at it.
And my boy is too. And I'm glad he's found that. I just literally wish it could have been anything else.
Right.
As a parent, because
right.
Anyway, but I'll give him grief because I'll just like, you chose wrong. It's Team Red, not Team Blue.
Right. Give him the haze.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So anyway, all right. Well, I got a little girl who's awake now, and I need to go.
Yeah.
Tend to her.
Tend to the younglings.
Yep. So.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. Yes,
Thank
I appreciate that, and it was awesome talking to you as well. And again, my deepest gratitude and prayers to your family, and hope the young one in the hospital pulls through. We're praying for him.
Thanks, sir.
And we definitely love you guys for what you do. You're amazing.
Thank you.
With that, just go ahead and say farewell for now, and hopefully we'll be in touch in the future so we can come visit your Charlie's Grove and pay her some honor and respect.
I'd like to have you out here.
Yeah. Matthew, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I know it was kind of emotional. However, it's very important. And please reach out. You have the website. Reach out to charliesorg.org. Excuse me. Okay, Matthew. We will be in touch.
Thanks, sir. You have a good evening.
Okay. You too. Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.